I have somebody on here named iPad 6.
I don't know who that is. That might be him.
Okay, we'll just wing it.
Yeah, we'll boot him off. And I don't think you have to have the live stream on right now either, Gina, until we start. Is that just a button on and off?
No, it's not. It's
'Cause,
easier for me to. Oh,
okay.
go ahead. It's a lot easier for me to just
Yeah,
keep
that is him. That's him.
doing it if that's okay.
Don. Yeah, because we're gonna have to figure this out for the closed meeting. How to turn it
Right.
on.
I mean, I'll be able to do that.
Okay.
It's just it'll take me a little time to start it back on, and once we get a quorum, I'll feel weird.
No big deal. No big deal. Yeah, no big deal. Oh my goodness, long day, huh?
Yeah.
End of semester, lots of emails.
Tons.
I know.
Ken is having a hard time joining, whichever Ken
who is?
Ken?
Ken?
I don't know.
Ken who?
I was gonna add them in case I forgot that there was a Ken, but they haven't been able to jump in anyways.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was like last minute, like, wait, do we have an edible version of this plan? And Sherry had it. I had to like track her down today.
Hey, that's amazing.
I know it really is, because I'll be taking notes. I'm kind of take my own notes, and then Michelle's taking notes, and then we'll combine the two and bring to the board. But that is very helpful, for sure. Let's see. Do I have everything in front of me now? How are you, Maggie and Michelle? Doing well? It's a long night. But this will be so great to get this under the wraps.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, last year they did some updates, but purposely left a full review, for the new board, like the full, because we had a number of members leaving. So then, because then we'll review next year and the year, just do like spot checks the next couple of years. And
yeah, this was a really, even Dawn was saying, this is a really good strategic plan. So I think it was pretty much big overhaul. And I think Gina was on part of that last time, right? Were you there too, Michelle? Were you on the big overhaul before?
No, I was on review because it was just last year when I was there for review. And I think they started doing that after I had left.
Oh, yeah.
My last board.
How many years did you take between board? How many times have you been on the board?
Twice.
And what was last time? When was your first time? Did the time between?
It was, I think I started in either 8 or 9.
Okay.
And then it would have been a couple of years, and then they switched it to 3 years after that.
Yes. Yeah.
Definitely.
How about you, Maggie? When was the last time you were on the board?
Well, this is my 4th time. I was on when I first started all the time. And then after the last time I was on, I was pregnant.
Oh my goodness.
So
yeah.
10 years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Things have changed. A lot more formalities, I'm sure, and all that,
Yeah.
Or maybe not.
Yeah. Meetings are shorter.
Are meetings shorter? Oh my goodness. You have to tell Dan that. Harass Dan.
Well, no, I mean, and we'd start school at 7:40 in the morning, and we wouldn't leave until like 10 o'clock at night. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And we couldn't start till 6. We didn't do workshops very often though.
Oh, I see.
It was mainly just come do the meeting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We did let people in the audience talk a lot.
Yes.
So that has been.
I think even in person, it's 15 minutes, and then it's, I think, is what Lisa. But we haven't been in person this whole time. It's so crazy. We're doing all this virtual. Who would have thought? Like, I bet 10 years ago, this probably wouldn't be possible like this, right?
No.
Yeah.
And then I have 2 kind of random questions. For the notes, I have our date, but where is our physical location this time? John, is it building C?
Yeah, building C.
And then, John, if you can, I can't remember your room, like the office. I can't remember your office, like room number.
Yeah, I think I put down lobby, but is he here? I don't see him here.
I see a tile, but I'm not sure if he's fully joined yet. I'll ask again.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can You can put the lobby. That's where we held it last time.
Okay.
That's kind of where I put it, because that's what John says. If somebody comes, they'll put them.
Right.
Well, and we have those little, like the little table and chairs and stuff out there, like the new ones. We have the new tables and chairs, so it's comfortable and everybody, you know, there's seats for people.
Yes, and I think people are kind of not, they're not really going places right now. I know I'm not. So it's like, this will just be great when we can look at this in the rear view next year for sure. What a year. What a long year. I'm getting all my stuff together. How are you, Dawn? Are you doing well? Oh, I think can you undo it?
Yeah, you're on mute, Don.
Can I unmute him? I used to be able to unmute, but I don't know if that's.
That might be me now.
Ooh.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now I'm okay.
There we go.
Good for you. I'm so proud. Isn't this crazy learning how to teach and do all that virtually? Yeah. Ooh.
Well, it's interesting. I was just telling Tom, we were on a side conversation. I'm having some connectivity issues at my home. So I'm not using my desktop. I'm using a laptop for the first time. So that's just one more variable.
Well,
But
this is great.
it'll
We'll
work.
get it done. We'll take it however we get it.
Yeah,
Yes,
it'll work.
I ended up having to plug right into my router. We had to get a router plug in, and I haven't had any issues since. So that's great. And I know it's 6:01. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. So what do you say? Should we just do some, or should we wait? What do you think, Don? What is your preference?
Well, I can tell you right now that there may be a bit of a confusion. I had it on my calendar at 6:30 to 8 for this first one and 6 to 7:30 the other ones. Do you think that went out wrong?
No, I think I put in 6 o'clock for all my updates. Yeah, I put in 6 o'clock for everything. So
The calendar
Well,
is correct.
what's that?
How does it usually work? Do you usually have everyone punctual at your board meetings, or is this a kind of a common thing?
No, we're pretty punctual, but your buddy Rob's not here. Give him a bad time when he arrives.
I will. That's not a good example of that.
May I also ask, Don, for the spelling of your last name, please?
Sure. It's HELMSTETTER.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, so just to let you know, Don, Michelle is our secretary for the board, so she'll be take notes.
Great.
I have
Thank
the old strategic plan, 2017 to 20. I have it in front of me, that in a Google Doc form. So if you see me typing or whatever, we're going to consolidate between her and I, whatever happens. So just know that we might look busy, but it's not because we're not paying attention to you.
Okay. Well, okay, that's fine. I'm used to I'm an English teacher, so I'm used to distracted students. The only thing is, I oftentimes called on them when I thought they weren't paying attention. So just be ready.
No, Maggie, your heart be still, an old English teacher, right? All right. Well, let's go ahead. We've got a quorum, and
Sure.
people will show up, and you are more than justified to harass Rob when he comes, Don. Just saying. Okay, so this is
I'll look for him.
yes, this is a strategic plan retreat. It's a little more informal, obviously, than a board meeting and all of that. So that's just nice to have us get together. This is so wonderful. We can do this for our school, and within the 3 sessions, wrap it up. So I am very excited. I mean, I looked over all of the things that Don asked us to look over. I went ahead and took a look at our mission and our vision and our core values and our strategies, and then kind of wrapped around my head, what's working, what's not. The COVID created new needs. I'm like, yeah, but it's so, for me, we'll talk about that. So this is just interesting times we're doing. And however we roll this out is great, because I think this is, Don, your first virtual.
This is the first virtual. Yep. I'm
Yeah.
feeling pretty confident, though. I've had a number of conversations with you and John, and then most recently with Tom. Tom Johnston has helped a lot. He'll be kind of guiding us through the breakout sessions and stuff,
Yeah. And he
that's
does
made
that
me
for
feel a
us.
lot more comfortable
Yeah,
too.
that's
Yeah.
as soon as John offered his name up, we're like, yeah, yes. So I'll go ahead and, if you don't mind, just take a roll call real quick of who's here. And we'll continue on, and we are live streaming this. My goal is maybe to get all of these documents into the board file under January, February, March, and to actually see if Justin can't take this live stream and put it there for anyone who wants future reference. Yeah, that way, because it was hard to find some of these docs. I thought, well, now that we have a community thing, and I'm looking for my pen here. I cleaned up from class, all my classes, and I'm like, oops, I put everything away. All right, let's go ahead and do a roll call if you wouldn't mind. Dan Ellingston.
Here.
Cody Schneip. Michelle Kurkowski.
Here.
Gina Albers.
Here.
Adam Bards.
Here.
Robert Kruger.
I'm here. Hi, Don. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay, your president noticed that you were not here when it was right away 6 o'clock, so
I told
glad
him
you made it. Glad you made it.
Jennifer Bartle.
Here.
Maggie Burgraff.
Here.
Paula Acapo.
Here.
John Gorecki.
Here.
And Cody might join us later, but I'll just say absent for right now. And very good. And then we have Don and Tom with us, of course, helping us with this. All right. And I don't know, John, if you want to say anything before we start, but otherwise we're going to hand it over to Don.
John?
No, it took me a while to find my mouse and click on the unmute. I'm just so happy and thankful that you're willing to join us, Don. You know, a little background. We've done a number of different strategic plans. This is the third one I will be participating in. I think based on our conversations that we've had earlier, I'm really looking forward to this because no pressure, but I think this is going to be the best one of the three, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you on behalf of all the staff for being willing to do this, and let's go.
Yeah.
All right.
Floor is yours, Don.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, all of you that are here. I just want to make a comment about that. Being school board members is a sacrifice of many kinds to your family and to yourself. And then, of course, to be doing it at a charter school is even more of a sacrifice, I think, because there's so much more involved with being a board member and so many things that I'm even personally not aware of. And that only makes me that much more admiring of what you guys are doing. But finally, the last thing I'd say is the strategic planning process is daunting. It never feels fun. But the reason that I put in a revised agenda, I'm not sure everyone's gotten that yet, Annie. Have you sent that out? Okay.
Yes, I sent it out.
Thank you. The reason that I put in what I call estimated times or approximated times are just to let you know that we're not going to get everything covered tonight, and I'm not even going to feel a bit bad if we only get through one of the first environmental analyses. But that said, the one thing that I would say as far as I'm concerned is part of what's going to be making this go fast is that you're all going to be kept rather busy. And please understand that even just some of the things, including the very first one on a 2-part introduction, that's a part of the process that I like to use. So for those of you that are a little skeptical, feel free to be skeptical. Just don't send me hate messages yet. Give me a few minutes or so. So the first thing I do want any of you that are in line here, and Annie, you can call the roll if you like, but what I'd like is your name, family, and occupation. And not that each of you get 10 minutes, but this is a real quick sweep. So I'll demonstrate what I have in mind. Okay, I'm Don Helmstetter. I've been married for 51 years. I've got 3 adult children, 7 grandchildren, 3 of those already adults. And the oldest grandchild, who's a nurse married to a veterinarian, has 2 children, which makes me a great grandpa, although I didn't ever need that title. I already knew that. And she's soon to become the mother of her first baby girl. I hope the baby girl is a little less active than the 2 boys. So I'm passing it on to the next person in line. Annie?
Yeah, Annie Cardenas. I've been married 29 years. We have 2 adult children. Been at MSA 4 years first, left 4 years back. Don't have any grandkids, and I think our kids still need to figure stuff out before that happens. So I'm kind of glad about that. And just glad to be here. I am entering into my later years. So this will I'm winding down from teaching. This will be probably my last 3 to 5 years.
Thank you. Annie, maybe you could call on people to just keep.
I should. Going. Gina, could you please? Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I have a fur family and actually like a scale family, like with geckos and stuff in the household. And this is my 8th year at MSA. I am the biology teacher, and this is my 2nd time on the board. Well, I'm just an interim person, but yes.
You're great. Well, Maggie, I'll call on you.
Maggie Burgraff. I have been married to my husband, Dave, for 18 years. We have 2 daughters. My oldest is a 9th grader, and so that's all that kind of fun. And then I have a 5th grader. They're both doing distance learning at their home schools this year. So we're all here. Great. Making school happen. I've been teaching at MSA since it opened in 1999, and this is my 4th time on the board.
Perfect.
Amazing. Adam Bartz?
Sure, I'm Adam Bartz. I'm a software developer for a company called Concentric. I have been married to my partner for 5 years, 0 children, 0 grandchildren, 0 pets. So it's just me and my partner at home. This is my first time on the board, but I do have some tangential previous board experience when my mother served on the board back in the early 2000s.
Great. Welcome.
Michelle?
Hi, I'm Michelle Krakowski. I have been married to my significant other for, almost 14 years. Summer wedding, so I had to think about it. So 13 years. And we have 3 nieces and 2 nephews to keep us very occupied on specific days, but quiet elsewhere. I've been at MSA since 2006. This is my 2nd time on board.
And Jennifer?
Hello. I have been married to Brian for 17 years, and we have 2 boys. Luke is in 11th grade at MSA, and I have another son named Lex, and he's in 8th grade. I work part-time at the elementary school down the street in the lunchroom, and I have a little dog. That's about it.
Okay.
Great. And Tom?
Yep, Tom Johnson, and we spent a lot of time talking, Don. My wife Laura and I have 2 elementary age children in 3rd grade and 1st grade. And I've been at MSA for 6 years now.
Great.
Rob?
Clicked on mute 3 times. 3rd time was the charm. I've been married to Rachel for 23 years. We have 3 children that have gone through MSA, or our last one is still there. She says hi to her teachers. And we have a little dog, and that's our life.
Great.
Dan?
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Dan Ellingson here. First time on the board. I have a wife, Alyssa, and 2 kids, 9th grade and 7th grade, both attending MSA. One of the things that we liked, we moved into the area. I'm originally from Minnesota, but when we moved back to Minnesota, we scouted out schools, and MSA was the one that we really wanted, right? We couldn't guarantee we got a spot because of the lottery, but based on everything we saw, academics, the feedback and everything, that's the school we targeted. So it actually kind of influenced our life, if you will, John and Annie. I mean, we moved to Woodbury so that we had a chance to get into MSA. And my story is not alone, but I wanted to share that with you. I mean, MSA carries a strong reputation, and we've been happy to see the kids living through that now. So.
And we have a real superstar here. We have our student representative of the board, which I'm so happy. So Paula is so involved this year. Paula, would you like to say something about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Paula. I'm an only child. I'm also a student here, and I've been a student since 6th grade.
Welcome, Paula. Glad to have you with us tonight.
She comes to everything. It's amazing. John, how about you?
So we've talked a little bit about Don, but for those that weren't privy to that conversation, my wife, my lovely bride, I should say, Peggy, and I share, we have 5 all college graduated students, children, and then from those 5 children, we have been blessed with 4 grandchildren, with another one due in February. So we're looking forward to the addition. One thing that we haven't really delved into is, why MSA? MSA was my dream job. This is my dream job. I've kept eyes on MSA for about 15 years. And about 6 years ago, the director position came available. And I've been so blessed for 6 years to be part of this wonderful organization. And I'm looking forward to many years to come.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, that's everybody then.
Well, that's super. And John's comments and also Dan's are really leading into the next question, which is really what makes MSA special for you? What makes it distinctive? And if I were talking to a business group, I would say, what's your competitive advantage? And so and some of you really have already kind of been alluding to that. Like I say, Dan talked about it in a general way, so did John. But now I'd like it to go around this time and talk about what specifically makes MSA, in your mind, distinctive and unique and also marketable, if you will.
Okay, I'll start and I'll call on people. That seems to be good. Well, for me, for sure, it's the kids. First of all, I don't know how we get these kids. They're just off the hook good, especially, you have good kids when you're in this environment we're in. That's for sure. And then parent involvement and small class sizes and the ability to own our own curriculum. Those are like my things that make this special, and we can deliver it the way we feel. And then I'll ask Gina.
I'm so sorry. I think I misunderstood the question. Is it things that we love about MSA or the things that we think make it competitive?
I'd like to think they're pretty close to the same. So if you would prefer to say what you love, I'm okay with that.
Okay, well then I would piggyback off of Annie with the kids and just the high expectations that we uphold, and then just the workplace environment too.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see, I'm going to go with Adam again.
So as a former student, I have a little bit of a different perspective than I think everybody else here on the board. MSA prepared me for college courses in ways that I was not expecting. I got into particularly the math and composition courses at the college level, and it was an absolute breeze. I was getting high test scores on tests. I was getting high marks on papers that I was writing, while peers from other schools across the state and from other states were struggling. I was like, why is this a problem? It didn't click until I was maybe halfway through my college career that MSA did one heck of a job preparing me for those courses without me even realizing it. And it's not marketed as at least at the time, a college prep school, but they've done an amazing and still do an amazing job of teaching their students and preparing them for the rest of their lives, really.
Very good. Thank you.
Mackie?
Adam was my student, and getting to hear him say that is why I keep coming back, because of what we are able to do for these kids. And they are amazing kids, like Annie and Gina said. So yes, yes, yes to the 3 people who went before me.
Yes. Michelle.
Okay. I would say as a teacher, I for sure would say the students and families together, they make all of the difference. And our staff, we have found such a wonderful combination of people. I think it's really, really awesome. These are the things that I think makes MSA distinctive. What stood out to me from day one was the idea that you really can be who you are, that that's okay, you know. So I'm an odd duck myself, and it's okay, and it's fine for me to be my kind of weird and goofy self. And I think that idea is an element of our competitive advantage. Yes, we have rigor. We have everybody that buys into that college prep, the rigorous curriculum. Everyone buys into that together, and we work hard together. But also that, you know, you can still be you. And I found that to be both distinctive, and I think that gives us an advantage.
It's empowering for students.
Yes, definitely. Jennifer?
So I thought a couple things. One was that parents really have the opportunity to get involved, that you're not lost in the shuffle because there's so many parents. You can really get involved in the school and it's welcomed, and I think that's great. The other thing is that the students really lead the teams or the groups. I mean, there's mentors from parents or teachers, but the students really lead. And it makes me think of like robotics. Students, it's really student driven, and I love that.
Great, thanks.
Dan?
Yeah, one of the things that we needed from kind of coming from the outside was some external validation. So one of the things that we looked to was like the test scores and the rankings and all of these external things. And I know it's hard to put things down to paper because if you ask any student's going to love their school, hopefully, and the teachers are going to love the school they work for. So it's hard to get that. So we were looking for something kind of external that would help validate, okay, all schools are, good, but what are some of the better ones, and what are the best schools that are out there that we could have available to us. So I was happy to see the test scores in particular, the SAT or the ACTs, and the different types of validations that can be done for students, and how well MSA had the track record, not just once or twice, but multiple times, scoring very well and continues to score well. So that gives me confidence that, my two children are getting the rigor that Adam was talking about that'll help prepare them well, because they're setting themselves up as good as we possibly can, right? So I think that's what we, as a parent, this is changing hats from the board, but as a parent, you want to know, are you doing everything you can for your kids? And one of those things is making sure we can give them the best education that we can. And then I switch my hat back to the board, and what can we do as a school to make sure that we give the best education possible within our control, right? So
it's great. Thank you.
Rob?
Yeah, so as a parent, I agree with most of what's been saying, but picking up off of Michelle, I really think our kids were able to be who they were here. And where Anna ended up leaving after middle school because she wanted more of a theater experience, she learned a lot in the theater that she was part of and with the music, and she learned to be a good writer. And this is Math and Science Academy, and it wasn't going to be her strength down the road because calculus was not something she wanted to take, but yet she was able to pick up theater, music, writing, all of those things in middle school from Math and Science Academy. And I think that is an incredible thing.
Paula?
So I think for me, it's the community. I've always felt like I get to know my students, the other students, and I feel like I have a relationship with them, which I don't feel like I would get at a big public school. And I think that also I feel like the teachers care about me, and I do really appreciate how much an effort all the teachers put in my education.
Okay.
Thank you.
John?
Well, what originally drew me to MSA, because I'm a chemistry and physics teacher, is the math and science component, having taught math as well. But I still remember very vividly when I came through the interview process the first time, and what struck me and really sold me on the school was when I walked into the band room and saw all of the instruments. And that just struck me that it's more than just math and science. It is the whole person. And every year I look forward to coming back because of not only the students, but the parents and the staff. All three of them are phenomenal. And I want to be part of that winning team and keep moving MSA up the ladder, so to speak. Not so much on a state level, because I think we're pretty close to the top of the state as we can get, but more competing almost at a national level. I mean, if you look at our test scores and how we compete nationally, we're moving up. My goal would be to get MSA, to be a top 100 school in the nation, and we're not that far off. And it takes all three of them, and that's by three I mean the students, the parents, and the staff. And what a wonderful winning combination that we have here. And who doesn't want to be part of a winning team, especially when you're impacting people's lives, for the rest of their life. I mean, and Adam and Cody, who's not here, are testaments to the school and the kind of product that the school is putting out. They truly are global citizens.
Great, thank you.
All right, and Tom and I don't blame him. If I was in your position, Tom said, "Can I just be the support?" And I don't blame him. So we're going to carry on then, Don.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Because that means he's paying attention for me, and that's good. I need that. Well, I'm listening to you. I honestly, I'm a former superintendent. If you read my Vita, you know that. But I love students. I've been involved with student activities throughout my career. And so let me just tell you 4 themes that I heard coming out of just the conversation here. And I'm not saying this so much for the strategic plan yet, but I have a feeling this is going to show up quite a few ways. One of the themes, or one of the highlights that I heard more than one time, was the strong parent involvement, where it's not just that you're welcomed, but there's even kind of a tacit expectation and anticipation of parent involvement. That's not always the case in all schools, particularly public, but even other charter schools that I've worked with. Another one that I heard was the external validity or external validation. Some of you said it in the form of high test scores. John was really emphasizing that at the end, but Dan's comment was, Rob, when he was talking to me, even inviting me to get involved with something like this, he talked about the quality of the school, and Annie, the first time you and I met, that came up. So the whole idea of high test scores, high achievement with your places, but the fact that that is an external validation that goes along with something that I really heard resonate from you tonight, which is that this is a welcoming community of students where uniqueness and individuality are welcomed, and frankly, even according to your strategic priorities, it's a priority. So I think that's wonderful, and that's what creates the community. So that's very, very positive. And then I heard again multiple times, and this is real, frankly, folks, this is a uniqueness. You may not even want to sell this too much, but this is rather something distinctive, and that's that it's more than math and science. When you talk about the instrumentation, when you talk about the theater, the language arts, the speech, all of this is clearly a source of pride for you, but also it's a beacon for some students, because it promotes a wider variety of individuality than just excelling in math or science. So good for you. Good for you. And just to let you know, we started about 6:05, so we're already about 3 minutes behind, but that's because your facilitators somewhat likes to talk. So that's kind of, think about these things as your competitive advantage. John and Annie, any of you that were involved with previous strategic planning processes for the Math and Science Academy, I'd like this time to be the opportunity to just kind of review, talk a little bit about what you did, how you did it, and particularly maybe, John, you can start out. just kind of running us through what happened maybe 5 years ago.
So 5 years ago, the board wanted to look at and needed to look at the strategic plan because it hadn't been looked at for a number of years previous to that. So we actually held a retreat off-site, and it was all-day retreat off-site where we invited a consultant to come in and kind of get us going on this path. And that particular consultant took us through the process of really looking at the mission and vision and making sure that it reflected what we wanted it to say. We did, from that strategic plan, fine tune, I guess I would say, the mission and the vision and some of the core values. And that was probably the biggest outcomes from that strategic plan, other than coming up with just some general overall strategic plan ideas and areas to look at. Then I guess fast forward about 3 years, and then we went through another strategic plan, which some of the people here were involved in, where this particular strategic plan was conducted at the board level by a board member. So that complicated things a little bit, in that when you're leading a strategic plan, it's hard to participate in it. And I think that was one of the real impetus to try and get you here, Don, was because this allows every member to participate fully and not be, focused on other tasks that they need to do. That in that process of the second strategic plan that I was involved in, we honed in much more on the actual document itself and the goals that we wanted in the 3 to 5 year plan. And then since that time, the board has taken the view that basically every quarter they would look at the strategic plan and look at certain items, or at least work their way through it. So by the end of the year, the board would have looked at this strategic plan in mass, at least every item in some manner or fashion. So that's kind of where we got to, and that 3 to 5 year time frame is up. So it's a logical time to look at it and look at where do we want to go and what do we want to do. Remembering that a strategic plan is a living document that it's not static. So once we get it, we're going to keep looking at it, fine tuning it, and of course judging ourselves against it. So that's kind of where the evolution. I don't know, there's some board members here that have been here longer than I have, and they may have participated in a different strategic plan, but those are the ones that I've been involved in the past 6 years.
John, did you utilize the SWOT analysis when you did your environmental review?
Yep. Yes, we did. We did it in both of the different 2 different planning sessions.
Okay, that's good. You're certainly familiar with it. I'm not sure that all are, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Are there others that have been involved with the school strategic planning? Gina, did you want to talk about that?
Oh, I think John covered most of it. I was actually at the retreat and in the second round. So I remember doing the document all together. Like, we would sit in on the meeting and go through it, each line, and decide if we liked it and reworded it. So it was definitely a process. The second time, way more so than the first time.
Okay. Yeah. What stands out for you? What did you leave the meeting feeling a sense of completion?
Yeah, the first time, definitely not. It was kind of all over the place in terms of kind of a linear flow, which was hard for me. And then the second one, where we were actually working with the document, that made more sense to me and was more tangible. So I appreciated the document version of it, or at least working with the document. But the first one was important because, we got out ideas, what MSA meant to us, etc. So I understand both. I just really appreciate it.
Okay. That's right. I think that's right. You're working on the science field. It sounds like you're a little bit more concrete on that. That's okay. Anybody else? So I want to talk just a little bit about what we are and what we are not going to be doing. Most of the experiences that I have had, and I've done a significant number of strategic planning processes. I've done them for schools about your size, and a couple of them smaller K-8 private schools. I've also done them for K-12 public schools that are significantly larger than what you've done. And I've done many of them, as I've said. Most of them, however, were in a public school setting. And one of the distinctive differences is that oftentimes in a strategic planning process at the public school setting, the bulk of the goal setting is done after the strategic planning process. It's not a part of it. And what we're going to do is get started, but we may not be able to finish in the 3 weeks. Annie would have to double my salary if we went longer than that, and I don't think she can afford it. The reason I'm saying that is so that you know where the expectations are. That's also why I sent out the revised plan, or the revised agenda, so you can see a little bit more what I'm hoping to accomplish tonight. About 5 years ago, then in all honesty, and incidentally, Annie, where I found the vision and the mission and the values, as well as the strategic priorities, was if you looked at the board of directors in your site, a map, and then I found it under that. They were all together then, that PDF of that. So what we're going to do, as you can see in parts 4 and 5, or items 4 and 5, is ultimately we're going to go to where we are, where we've been, by reviewing each of these. And when you look at the time frame that I have for reviewing, this is clearly not the dig down deep into every word, but this is probably going over most of the words of the vision, the mission, and the values, and selected strategic priorities, just so people know where we are. And also that's homework for you guys next time too, so that you can continue to stay with that. That's the process that we'll be using. Needless to say that when we're not meeting together, you guys can slip out and go to the bathroom or get a glass of water or some non-alcoholic beverage to keep you going anytime you want. We won't have a specific break unless one is asked for it. Unless one is asked for by your chair, Annie. I follow all her directions all the time, as every good superintendent would always do too. But we will then conduct the internal and external, sometimes it's called as environmental analysis. That's the SWOT analysis that we do. And then we'll get started on the building, managing, and assessing the plan. That's something that John referred to. When the board takes the time to go over that, that's exactly what you're doing, is you're managing. And then if there's revisions and so forth necessary, that's what goes on with that. So that's really kind of it in a nutshell, at least to begin with. There'll be different times that we'll be talking. As we get talking about the breakouts and the SWOT analysis and so forth, the strengths and weaknesses, one of the things that I talked to the administrators, well, actually to Annie and John about, and even to Rob when he and I first had this discussion, was that there are a number of things that really people ought to remember while they're doing strategic planning. And a lot of times people think of it as a time that, okay, we can really get creative. And I've been a part of those, and that's really kind of fun. But as a school that worries from year to year on budget, and one bad mistake can really be devastating to the budget. You can be a risk taker, but you can't be reckless as a board. You can be critical in your thinking, but again, because you're such a small community, it's also important that we're constructive as well. And I don't see any problem with that. So I don't see any problem with us getting going. One of the things that I did talk about with Rob, and I think I may have with John and Annie, is that a book that I've used often and read numerous times is a book by Jim Collins called Good to Great. And one of the phrases that he uses in there is that good is the enemy of great. And I like to sometimes modify that to say, when people say, well, that's good enough, that's just a killer of greatness. And it's a killer of the uniqueness that you're talking about. So I'm glad that I didn't hear any of that tonight. The other thing that I do want to emphasize, though, is that since you have a limited source of revenue, you won't be able to do everything that you want to do. And you haven't been for years, neither has any other place. So I oftentimes will picture, this would be the time, Tom, that if you have it, you can throw up the mobile, but you don't even have to. If people, well, maybe just to imagine what a mobile is for those that aren't visualizing is it with it. Tom, do you have something there? Look at how, see, he's really alert. He's right on there. Okay, that's a mobile. It's maybe not the one you to hang in your house, but that's what it is. All of these little pieces there are very decorative and they all balance out one another. You move one of those, you lift one up and the whole thing changes. You pull one a little bit lower and the rest of it changes. The wind blows and it rocks. I use that to emphasize one of the things that that people who worked for me here often or heard often, and that's, folks, we got to minimize the variables. Now, in your scientific studies, of course, you do the minute you minimize the variables. Why? Because changing multiple variables means you can't trace the results accurately as much as you'd like. The same thing with a budget, the same thing with strategic planning. If you look at your strategic priorities and you decide, I think we want to do more of this, let's emphasize this more. Even if it doesn't take more financial resources, and usually it will, if it's really a priority, it's going to take more time. It's going to take more attention. And consequently, you have to understand that an unintended consequence of that choice of yours was that something else is going to lack, unless you can find a way of bolstering that up. More people, more money, finding more time for those people. That's the only way it can work. So that's why I really say that you want to be a risk taker, but you can't be reckless. By the same token, we want you to be flexible. We want you to be imaginative, but you must always be pragmatic in the context of what you have available to you and what you know you're going to have available in the future. Make sense? So one final comment. I think a predicator of some of what we're doing tonight has been coming from the building planning group, our committee. And that's that you're looking at building. You're looking at new construction because your place is basically packed. And you can't get more students into this. And of course, the only way that you can grow is to have more students, which creates more revenue, which provides more teachers and other faculty and staff. So all of that is a part of it. And we want to talk about that. And I'm not trying to put a kibosh on it. I'm only saying that we need to think contextually in everything that we do tonight and the next nights as well. Any comments or questions right now before I'm ready to move on?
Really quick, just because I know that this one is that we're making sure we're live streaming, but that also we're going to post it. And I hope that this doesn't sound terrible, but when we were talking about the differences between, you know, us and some of the other plannings, like other public schools, we're still a public school. We're just a charter public instead of the large, big district public. Just in case someone's watching it later, I don't want them to accidentally think that we're private. Sorry.
Thank you for the semantics, Michelle. You're right. And you're a part of the public school 94-140 law, as well as all other forms. That's the special ed form. And clearly the law, though I love it, is that whereas in school boards, in the normal public school setting, cannot have teachers on. They have to give up their position because they can't earn more than $5,000 with the district in which they serve on the school board. And here it's in language, it's in law that teachers must serve on the board. So it's very unique. It's a very commendable thing. And you're right, I do appreciate your, and I'll let any of you guys correct me on those kinds of things. I don't mean to say that as it sounded. Anything else? Okay, you're all raring to go, waiting to see what we can do. Well, we did have a brief review of the strategic planning process. Now it would be time to take a look at the part 4, where we are and where we've been. If you can get up, or if you can find your sheet, if you've got a paper copy, or if you can find it on your computer, your MSA's vision and mission and your core values. I'd like to kind of go through a little of that now. And let me tell you why we're doing it too, as you're looking to find it. And John pretty much said that in the way that happened before. You have to know where you are in order for you to know where you want to be going. And there's, that's just the way it is. And the reason that we're going over it together is to have a real shared sense of position, where we are together. And so there's no confusion. If people want to bring up questions, that's the thing to do. Tom, at this time, do you have any comments? Do you have a parking lot available for these folks today?
Yeah, so one of the things that when you all signed up for the Padlet account, I shared with you 4 different Padlets, and I have them here. I'll just go through them real quick. This is what my dashboard looks like, but one of the ones is that we have a parking lot for comments. So at any point, if there's a question that comes to your mind, a comment that you'd like to make, but it doesn't necessarily pertain to that topic at that exact moment, but of course we're afraid we're going to lose it, like we forget, right? If you go to the parking lot, you can either click on the plus sign in the lower right hand corner, or you can double click. You can put your comment in there. You can put your thought, your question, and that will be a spot where we can come back to those at a later time. We don't need to answer them right away, but they're there for us to address. These are also the strategic planning documents. They're just another place for you to come back and find them at a later time. This was where we're going to record our SWOT analysis. We'll go over that a little bit later after we get our first couple of thoughts recorded. And then we have an assignments category. So as we walk away today, what do we need to do before next month's meeting? So this is a place where we can record some tasks and who is going to be responsible for doing that. All of these documents are downloadable, so we can record it here, but then we can export them and keep them as PDF documents, so you don't necessarily have to go back to the Padlet to find them in the future. So,
hey, thanks.
Yep, that's how we're going to use that.
So the parking lot gets its name from board members. Did you know that? It comes from people that, board members and teachers, I always say, because it comes from board meetings or staff meetings. And as people are leaving, their minds are just kind of generating more thoughts, and they're actually having some great discussions out in the parking lot before they go home. Now that's, of course, when we could actually talk to one another without catching COVID. So the point of those parking lots and of writing in that parking lot is, if you don't want to, for example, you think of something even while we're talking and you don't want to interrupt the flow, that's a good place to put it, because then we'll come back to it. Maybe while we were talking, somebody just thought to myself, I should know this, but I don't remember. I just wonder what the percentage of non-white students is to white students in our school. And that's not a big deal. It's just a question, put it in there. If on the other hand, when we're doing our SWOT analysis, when we've already gone past the strengths and we're looking at weaknesses or something like that, and you think of another one you wish you'd written down, that's the place to write it down. Because we'll always be reviewing that. Tom is going to be recording it, and I'll be meeting with Tom between sessions to gather that information and just determine how I want that to help influence what we're going to be doing at our next meeting. If all it is simple questions that can be found by John or Tom or other administrators before the next meeting, that can go out in any form or shape or otherwise. But I say that because there's so many times that some really creative thinking or really important insights are not brought up at a meeting, and particularly one like this, when clearly only one person can talk at a time. So please use that. I think there's a lot of creative and important information that gets lost if we don't do that. Okay. So let's go through your strategic plan, starting with the vision. And I start with the vision. Sometimes it's often changed, and I'm glad you guys have yours on top. And that was what I was going to be using before I don't need to. Your vision is to be an innovative, sustainable model of academic excellence that creates well-rounded, lifelong learners and global citizens. Now, I'm just going to be giving a couple of comments that you guys could make as well on this, but to just follow up a little bit on what John was saying. He was saying, I really think we're maybe in clearly the top 1%, maybe even the top 100 schools in the nation. I don't know how close you are or if you are, but that's, that can be a part of the mission too. If you really want to be looking at this as a school of excellence, you talked about a sustainable model of academic excellence, well-rounded. Okay. So as you're looking at your vision right now, are there some other things? Now, normally I would break you up in groups. So if you have tablet paper in front of you or something in front of you and want to write down a thought or two, I'm going to just give you about 30 or 40 seconds of silence. I know, heaven forbid, online, to just kind of be thinking a little bit before we start talking about what you feel about that vision, what you just want to kind of nudge it with, or just some simple thoughts to it. And not to say that we're going to make changes in it, only that we're visiting it now. That's all. We're just visiting. Okay, now I'm going to be ready to start, but the first is a rhetorical question. You don't have to raise your hand. I'm just wondering if any of you, when you were asked by your leader to please review your strategic vision and mission and strategic priorities before the meeting tonight, if you took time to do that, and then you also thought, I wonder what other schools have for their vision statement. I'm going to go look at some other schools throughout the state, throughout the region, maybe even throughout the United States, and see what their vision says. I'm guessing that this last month, which included Christmas and New Year's, and of course last week's harrowing week, I'm guessing that you had other things on your mind. I'd encourage you to do that. We might say that you're copying if you go someplace and use theirs. I prefer to say that educators never copy, but they share. That's the unique thing about the educational industry, in my mind, is that they don't mind at all sharing what they do well and borrowing from others that they know are doing well. I think that's a pretty healthy thing. Any comments now on your vision statement as a School of Math Science Academy?
I would say that we're missing the mark on global citizens.
Talk about that. What would you mean to say, Rob?
Well, I think that we are lacking the faculty are excellent, but we haven't been able to attract more diversity, more global emphasis on our faculty to make the students see that that we rely on everybody. Our students are far, far, far more diverse than our faculty and staff. And I think that's just really holding students back from recognizing that it takes all of us together to be this global society. And obviously with the events over the last couple of weeks, we can see what this divide is doing to us. And I think it speaks volumes when the students look around and don't see themselves.
Okay, now that's something, Rob, that when we start talking about during our analysis, that's perfect to be bringing up, both perhaps as a weakness, an opportunity, and threat, all of those. So what you're talking about is the faculty color doesn't reflect at all that of the student population. in short, as a tangible concern as it relates to the vision. Are there other comments, both positively and of concern?
I was going to also mention that the diversity thing, I really needs to be somewhere here, but I'm just not sure where. So I agree with Rob on that. And that
Okay.
we also, I feel, to speak to Paula's point, I feel also we, unlike the last 2 weeks, really have raised some really tolerant students. They're tolerant of other and accepting of others. So I don't know where that would be either. That's, I think, something that's emerged out of a lot of professional development, et cetera, the last few years, several years.
Great. And even if you're not commenting now, make sure you write some of these down so you can use them during the SWOT analysis, because these are important comments. And you have it in one of your strategic priorities as it relates to maintaining and enhancing a robust community. That's where you do have the cultivate diversity awareness and cultivate, and so on. But maybe what you're saying is that's not enough. Is there something we can do differently? And that's why we're mentioning it now. Are there other comments from any of the rest of you regarding the vision?
I appreciate that. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, Michelle. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, thanks, Dan. One of the things that I have always appreciated about our vision are these specific words that we have utilized here, not only as something that we represent, but as a goal for us to continue. So innovative, not just in our curriculum, but in our environment, in our classes, in our extracurriculars, and a lot of those things. Sustainability is key. We have to be sustainable as a charter school. And again, lifelong learners, well-rounded individuals. I think that while the number of words total in the sentence is brief, each one is very impactful.
Thank you.
And if I just build, did you have a
Go
comment,
ahead, sure.
Tom? No, I was just going to build on innovative in particular, because I think one of the things you could run into is just putting a bunch of buzzwords down. And I don't think that's what we wanted. I like where Michelle was going, where that innovative is more than, we've talked about that as a board. It's more than just like one particular aspect of the school. It's how do we be innovative everywhere. The only thing I was challenging us a little bit on is, it's like, what have we done that is innovative, or what are we going to be doing that is innovative? I just see like some of the things that we've done as a school, not picking on our results are fantastic, but some of the things that we've done, other schools are also doing, if it's technology or if it's this or if it's that, if you fill in the blank. So what is it that we can say, MSA does this, which is innovative, and other schools are not, and that's why we do, get these results, or we do. So I like innovative. That's my background in terms of engineering or science and whatever, but I don't know that I can say, here's the 2 or 3 things that we really do that are so innovative beyond others. And that maybe that I just need to be educated, but I would challenge us to say, what is it that we're doing that's so innovative?
And in fact, that's a good comment. I think that was Dan, right? I can't see you on I'm using an iPad here tonight. In fact, if there's even one of you that asks that question, even if the other ones of you can respond to that with a tangible answer, but if there's one of you that can't or doesn't know it at this time, I guess that what that means is we need to make sure that we're still out there marketing what that means, so that your parents know that, and even for that matter, that your students do. I always feel like these kinds of items, the mission, the vision, core values, are something about which we should be holding ourselves up to. So it's kind of like, if I believe in dignity and due process to create justice for all, then that means you need to hold me to that. Don, is what you have said, does that dignify that other person, or does it take away his or her dignity? And you got to be able to challenge me on that. So that's what should happen with each of the items in this plan. And that's why I believe, Gina, you guys spend so much time on the words, that each one does mean something. And even if it did 3 years ago or 4, it may mean something else, or may not mean quite as much now. And that's why we're looking at it. It isn't my intention to spend a lot of time with these, except as it relates to triggering the SWOT analysis, and then it'll come back in that final meeting either with work to do or with, some revisions to be done. So let's look at mission. We provide accelerated curricula in all subjects with an emphasis on math and science. What's the thought on that?
I feel really good. This is my favorite, by the way. This is what draws me back to this place. I feel I'm a science teacher. I'm a chemistry teacher, and I live, breathe, and eat those words, and it's still tasty.
For me, I like how succinct it is. It used to be multiple sentences, I'm pretty sure, and we shortened it just to one. It's a lot easier to remember. I was never able to recite the mission before we shortened it. And we changed rigorous to accelerated. It ended up being more like tangible than just saying rigorous. Like, what does that mean? Accelerated seemed to be more accepted at the time. That's just my thought.
Okay. A parent looking for a school can look at that and pretty much grasp what it is you guys are trying to accomplish or are successfully accomplishing.
So this is one comment that may want to go in the parking lot for later or just to write down, but I would like to insert a little phrase in there in that we provide accelerated curricula in all subjects in a diverse and accepting environment with an emphasis on math and science. Because I think we need to emphasize those two components because we do them so well. So the external community knows that is intentional. It's not just a byproduct of or happenstance. All of our classes do that with a focus on it.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Any other comments? Are we ready to move on? And let's make sure that is posted in the parking lot. We aren't changing it yet. We're going to be bringing it up for further discussion, either during these 3 sessions or at another time. Okay, the core values. Basically, what the core values are is they should be telling you, as well as telling everybody else, how you're going to accomplish your mission. The core values tell you how you behave, what's important to you. And so let's take a look at them. The first one is honesty. MSA's community exhibits fairness, cooperation, integrity, and honesty. MSA students and staff take responsibility for their actions. I'm going to go through these a little faster. Make a notation if you want to comment on any of these when I'm through reading them. Community. MASA maintains small class sizes and a small school feel. The next one, respect. MSA's community respects others and their views while fostering a safe environment where every voice is heard and individuals are free to take risks. From an outsider, I really like that last line, individuals are free to take risks. It kind of reflects, Michelle, what you were referring to before. But that's my only 2 cents worth here yet. Teamwork. MSA encourages networking, collaboration, and open communication between all members of our community. MSA encourages students, their families, and staff to invest their time and resources to serve the MSA community. That gets back to, I'm going to forget the name. I believe it's not Maggie. Who was I'm sorry. I'm not remembering your name. Jennifer, I believe you were talking about how parents were invited and really encouraged to be involved in that. And I think that's a good point, and it's well expressed there. Excellence. MSA continuously evaluates and improves, check the verb structure there, to ensure the highest quality in teaching and learning. MSA empowers students to develop independence through organization, time management, and self-discipline. All right, any general comments on any one of those 5 core values?
I think somewhere sort of independence of thought should be represented. We have, you know, if we're looking at lifelong learners, global citizens, independent thought, critical thinking, and independent thought is key. I don't know if it's implied. I'm just throwing it out there.
All right, Tom, I hope you're writing that down. Anyone else? Adam, any thoughts on these as one who's gone through the program?
I was just writing down a comment for the parking lot and just a thought. I think the answer should be no, but just as something to consider, do the order of these core values matter? Like, we have them as bullet points. They're not listed A, B, C, D, not 1, 2, 3. So there is no explicit ranking, but are these an implied ranking? Do we rank honesty more than teamwork? Does that matter? And this is just something that I'm trying to wrestle with in my head. I think the answer is it shouldn't matter, but does an outside person can believe or perceive that it matters?
And if it doesn't matter, maybe all we need to say is in no particular order or something like that. But that's a good point. And that's actually worth a board discussion at some point. I really do believe that. I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you. Other comments, anybody?
I would say the second one, community, is one that concerns me as far as the fact that we want to maintain small class sizes and small school feel. Well, that is absolutely impossible under our current model, because the only way we can pay the bills is to grow. And that has a breaking point. And so we will completely lose at least how we word this community. And so I don't know the answer yet, but that's a concern.
And I think part of it could be wordsmithing. You know, just really quickly, it might say MSA strives to maintain small class sizes and a small school feel, even as it gains in popularity and student population, or something to that effect, which becomes even a marketable tool. But that's something you as a board want to kind of work on. That's an interesting thought. It doesn't feel small when you got a whole lot of kids in your class. On the other hand, it doesn't feel small as you have more campuses than what you do right now too. So that's part of that mobile as we're talking about it. Something's got to give. There are ways, and you guys certainly know them, those of you that have been teaching here. I'm thinking most particularly those of you, I think, who I think I'm still trying to remember all the names and stuff, but Maggie, you've been here since the inception. I'm sure you've felt the small school, but you've also seen that has taken on a new look over the years as well.
Yeah, the small school that was in '99 is gone. So that small school feel, if Adam were a student again, it wouldn't be the same experience he had. It's still small. It's different.
Right. Okay. Anyone else right now for that? I appreciate the comments that you have. These are very constructive, and these are the kinds of things that should drive the SWOT analysis. But more importantly, it's additional work as we go down the road. And if you will, Tom, could you please display the strategic planning pyramid? So I can just kind of walk through that for just a moment before we go into the strategic priorities. You can see what we've done, and you see how I've intentionally marked off different areas. The top 3, the mission, vision, and values, we've gone over that. The vision really is who we choose to be or the outcome of our mission. The mission, of course, is why we exist. What's our core purpose? The values really are our beliefs and our culture. You know, it's what we want our students to espouse. It's what new staff needs to espouse. as we assimilate them and still retain the uniqueness of our students and our staff. That's really the critical piece. Nevertheless, it needs to be expressed, and students ought to know what these core values are too, if they don't. But then moving to the next one, the strategies. These are the strategic priorities. I think you have them listed as strategic priorities, and that's fine. I think that's a good way to say it. Those are the goal areas, and those are basically your measures of success or targets for that success. And I like to call them, when later on we're going to go right to them, I like to call them our pillars of that pyramid, because that's the foundation upon which all things matter. But I wanted to move on beyond that too, because in addition to that, there'll be initiatives. Now, you might not have referred to them as initiatives, or you might. I liked to do that when I was a superintendent. These are areas that you need to focus on, or you plan to focus, where you'll support those strategies. Let's just say, for whatever horrible reason, the scores in biology weren't as good as we would have liked them to be. So maybe the following year, I'm just picking on you, Gina, that's all. Maybe the following year, what we do is we emphasize that area, and maybe there's different things that's done throughout the curriculum, or just simply throughout the biology curriculum that emphasizes that. Any other initiatives? For example, if you say, we've had, and I'm just making this one up too, and I'll just use it all in general. Let's just say that this COVID, when the kids come back full time in all of the classrooms, there just seems to be a little bit of a divergence from the values of respect, teamwork, and so forth. So maybe what your initiative is a new area of focus for the coming month or year on just how is it that we're going to be addressing this all over the school, in every classroom, in every hallway, sports after school, all those other kinds of things. How are we going to get back the culture that we're missing? So that becomes an initiative. Sometimes it costs more money. It always will take more time. And maybe sometimes it even takes more staff or another person. And then finally are the special projects, or one or more. And that might include special projects like a building fund. That might be where that is. It's not only an initiative, but it's a special project. Excuse me a second. That's something else that you might be taking up, and it needs to be listed. It needs to be articulated, and that's what you'll be doing. But these are the projects that help to achieve the initiatives, or the strategies that you've got accomplishing, that you hope to accomplish in the shorter, longer term. Now on mine, on my pyramid, I've also added 3 lines, and these are the overarching focus or expectations. For example, that might be diversity, acceptance, or it might be just simply the uniqueness, acceptance of students as individuals. Whatever it is, that becomes another piece of it becomes what I oftentimes called common work. It's work that no longer even needs to be anything more than simply addressed, because it's become a part of who we are. But it also informs, directs, and I sometimes say grounds our actions and our decisions. I used the phrase before that we treat people with dignity and provide them due process, so ultimately they leave my office with a sense of justice. That became, for me, everything that informed my actions and the decisions that I made. And it didn't matter whether it was Annie as the board chair's child, or whether it's a student coming in, or whether it's the most important benefactor. Everyone needs and deserves that opportunity to be treated with dignity. And that's just one of the things then. And for you, that's why I asked the question, what might that be? We won't be necessarily taking that kind of time on this. A lot depends on how fast we go. But that's why we're visiting this that you guys have done in the past. And I just wanted this now. Now we can switch it back, Tom, to the strategic priorities. Before we do though, are there any comments or questions on the pyramid that I shared? It isn't really unique. It's not solely my own. I feel like parents, or rather teachers, if you plan to share some of this with your students, that's a model that's pretty easy to talk about, pretty easy to define for your students, and help them to kind of clarify that. I oftentimes will use that with a school board or a board that hasn't done a strategic plan before, so they understand where we're going to be going, starting with the mission, or rather with the vision, going to the mission, and then making sure we determine our values or how we conduct ourselves, and then moving to strategies and initiatives. So here's your strategies, your strategic priorities, the 5 pillars, if you will. Increase mission-driven academic programming. Enhance MSC's distinction for academic excellence through rigor in technology and focus on academic mission. Now, someone used the word rigor before that it had been taken out of the vision. It's still here. Maybe you want it that way, but that might just be a notation. Then another one: achieve teacher and staff excellence. Build on MSA's reputation for educational quality by recruiting, training, and retraining quality teachers and staff. I think it was Rob, and maybe it was others besides that, John too, talking about diversity in faculty. And maybe this is something, maybe there's some wording that you're going to be putting in there, as it's recruiting, training, and retaining quality teachers and staff with special, with an emphasis on interviewing, or however you want to do it. The third pillar: maintain and enhance a robust MSA community. Cultivate cohesiveness through communication and collaboration with parents, between teachers and staff, and through purposeful mixed grade interactions. Powerful statement. If you guys are doing that on a pretty regular basis, that's powerful. Broaden MSA's community base by increasing alumni connections and by establishing a Woodbury presence. Don't know what you meant, but we'll come back to that in a second. I'm going to go through all of these, and then I'm wanting any of you to make comments on any of these that we've gone through without looking at the core initiatives yet. Support measures to make MSA financially sustainable. Create and monitor a plan for MSA financial sustainability through measured expansion. I love that phrase. Building teacher, student growth, and fundraising. And finally, ensure operational excellence. Focus on meeting stakeholder expectations by strengthening the operational effectiveness of MSA. Okay, we're kind of glossing, but not with any particular reason. Anybody have a comment on any one of the 5 pillars? Wording or intent?
I think the rigor of the increased mission driven we could put back in accelerated curriculum there, through accelerated curriculum. Because I know we used to have that. And then the academic teacher and staff excellence, I think we did put an emphasis on diversity. That's something we could have in that area. I thought when I was reading over these things. And then there's a couple, I don't know if we do these things, which is kind of scary. That's all I have to say.
Anybody else?
Go ahead, Michelle. No, you go right ahead.
I still see areas where
time out a second. Okay. I'm also I want you two to talk, but I'm also English teacher that I am. I'm going to be calling on Jennifer and Maggie the next round. Okay, so be ready. Gina, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I still see areas that we could continue to strive towards as goals in the future that we have yet maybe to be able to hit, like fundraising and things like that.
Okay,
And cultural awareness.
perfect. Yeah. Now, what you might find as we start looking at the initiatives, and that's basically, some of the process for getting this accomplished, you may find that some of those are listed, but that doesn't mean that they've been addressed. They've just been listed. And we'll get to those in a second, but thank you for bringing that up. Anybody else? Oh, Michelle, you were going to talk first.
Yeah, I was looking at the goal number 3, and I understand why it's there, but I was wondering about the potential of discussion or wordsmithing the second half of our priority 3. We definitely want to broaden our alumni connections, but we already have an established Woodbury presence. So perhaps if we're looking to expand that out, kind of rephrasing where we want our presence to be established or notable, I'm just thinking Woodbury it's great to be known locally, but again, I feel like maybe if we can expand that out a little bit.
Yeah, honestly, when I first read that, and this was even before I said yes, but it was after Rob talked to me, I would have thought that same thing, and I would have maybe even put in, without knowing anything else about it, expanding the Woodbury presence. You're broadening the community base, but you're expanding the Woodbury presence. But I'm not at all sure what you guys meant at the time. That's just was my thought. Okay, which of you ladies are going to just really kind of butt in and go?
Well, I haven't done this before, so I'm kind of learning as we go. So I don't know if I have a lot to say because I'm still trying to figure out, I don't know. I'm just processing it.
Okay, I'm not going to grade you down for that.
Come back to me.
Okay, I will. I promise. I'm just mostly, I'm not trying to put you guys on a spot. I'm just wanting to make sure that we've got everyone given a chance to talk publicly here. So please forgive me for pulling my English teacher hat back on, even as I call right now on Maggie. Was that Maggie that was just talking? I didn't see
no.
That
This
okay.
is Maggie.
I'm sorry.
I'm a big picture person, so I get that we want to go through and be more specific, I think, but I agree, adding the diversity aspect to the second one. I was looking at goal 4 and just kind of thinking about, like you were saying, you like the wording, measured expansion for building, for teachers, for student growth. And I just think because of the situation with COVID, it's going to change everything when we come back in person. Whether that is, students who decide they like, the more freedom that they might have this way. That whole, how do we encourage that growth in that way with something that might look, it's going to look different, I guess, basically is what I'm trying to say, moving forward for teachers, for students, for the building. I don't know what that is yet, but I just think that that's important to look at. What does that sustainability look like?
Okay, good for you. I think that is going to be a critical question to be asked. It also can present an opportunity. It may be one way to expand your base, even as you retain the schools, by having an online presence all the time, even though you want face-to-face students. You might find some students that, like you said, prefer it. And even when the world is healthy again, chooses the online presence. And that's just yet another part of the new Math and Science Academy culture. Could be.
Could be.
Adam, how about you? Any thoughts before we go on?
No, Michelle had tackled the thought that I had. I got hung up on the second point in the third goal about establishing a Woodbury presence and thinking about expanding that to the greater community, or really set the bar high with a state or national presence.
Okay, thank you. Now, I appreciate the comment about the big picture versus the detail. because that's what we always do. And you do it every day in the classroom, don't you, faculty? You've got students with different kinds of mind styles and different things that really get them excited in terms of content, but also just in terms of how it's delivered. And we don't have video here tonight, at least not a good Chevy Chase vacation kind of a thing. Okay, that dated me, didn't it? That's what my students think, or my own family. They thought I was Clark Griswold because of all of the things that I would tell them while we're driving on vacation. As you look at the core initiatives, now let's move on. See how I'm trying to get out of this thing? At the strategic priorities, yes, and then down below that was the core initiatives. And I'm conscious of the time. Annie, was this agenda set to take us to 7:30?
Yes, yes, it was.
Okay. So given that we started a little late, I'm going to beg that I get an extra 5. So we'll be done in 10 minutes, I promise you. Okay. And I'm not worried that it's taken us this much time because it helps me to know more about you as a board community, and even about your interests and your concerns for the coming couple of sessions. As we look at the core initiatives, look down beneath each of these, and I just want to highlight the one, if you will. We talked a little about teacher and staff excellence. I'm going to look primarily at numbers 2 and 3 tonight, ever so briefly. But the core initiatives under our Achieve Teacher and Staff Excellence have to do with recruitment, professional development, and retention. And then beneath that is a long list of items that you have there. Provide staff with job descriptions, professional development opportunities on technology and Skyward. Boy, I'll bet you that was important. Review teacher induction programs, priority for engaging teacher voice and decision-making, powerful statement, as long as it's utilized. Update, clarify, and communicate a clear evaluation system of observation for teachers and staff, and then minimize teacher room changes during the class day. Cool, very cool. As a rookie teacher, I traveled to 6 different classrooms. I carried my stuff on a cart. And as a superintendent, I never made even my specialist teachers have to do that ever again, because I recognize the limitations that it places you all. But then I had the opportunity to do that. Not everybody does. I'm saying these because part of where these performance indicators go are with the core initiatives are this. These are the things really where a lot of it is left now, not to the board so much as to the administration and the faculty and for the implementation. And that's why when we're done with our strategic plan and with the strategies and the initiatives that are ultimately that come from this, the buy-in, and even more importantly, the communication of how you're doing, what you're doing, when you're doing it, is all really critical to its success. Whether it's trying to raise money for building a new school, or regardless of what we're doing, even if you said, what we're really looking for is we're looking to recruit more teachers of color. If we tell that to your parent community, you might all of a sudden, or John might all of a sudden get 1 or 2 or 3 referrals over the course of a year. Have you thought about this person? They just moved to town. So-and-so works over at 3M, but the spouse is available if you ever need somebody in this area. These kinds of things occur because you communicate those special elements. And then the last one I'm looking at tonight, unless you guys want to bring me up to one, would be the enhance a robust MSA community. And we talked a little bit about that, about I think we talked, I guess it was, I'm still trying to remember names, I'm sorry. Maggie, you mentioned the development of the community once people come back to school, the whole issue of cultural diversity, expanding the MSA community base, all of these things. Look that detail over a little bit more next time. We won't be taking the time to address it too much unless you bring it up, and I'd like you to be able to. Part of what we're going to do next week is we're just going to be asking you to, who did you talk to about this? Now, if you will, Tom, take us to the revised agenda again. What I thought might take us an hour has taken us longer than that, almost an hour and a half. So the SWOT analysis will be done next week. And if we don't get through that, that's really the reason why I asked for the third session. But if you look at number 6, which is the next page there, this is what I want. We want to make sure we've got the date and time. So the date and the time is February 22nd from 6 to 7:30. I warned you that the time would go kind of fast. I hope you're feeling that. I surely did. The tasks and the homework is here. Here's the assignment for each of you. Take the time now to talk with 2 or 3 people about MSA's strengths and weaknesses. And then be ready to add that on their behalf and yours when we come back next time and we go through those, the strengths and the weaknesses. If we have more time, we'll go through the opportunities as well as the threats. Okay, so that's the first thing you do.
Don, is that like,
yes.
is that any 2 or 3 people or people in the room here?
No, actually, I'd like you to expand beyond the room, if you will.
Okay, gotcha. Yep. Okay.
You're going to have time to talk with one another in breakout sessions next week, or next month, I should say, with the strengths and weaknesses. So what I'd really like is for you to start talking about this is what we're doing, and we really want to know what you consider to be the strengths and weaknesses of our school community, of our MSA.
Great, thank you.
And then what I'd like you to do, in light of the strengths and weaknesses, and we haven't discussed them that much, what I'd like you to do is compare any thoughts that you have about strengths and weaknesses and compare them to our present strategic priorities. We kind of did that already when you were going through the vision and the mission. But they sometimes say, let's do a gap analysis. The gap analysis is what you do with the data that you have. And what we're going to be doing is by looking at our strengths and weaknesses and comparing it with what we've got, or not just with what we've got, but rather what we said we were going to do, but we feel like we aren't doing as much of it as we'd like. That's where the gaps are. And then we have to decide, are we okay with that? Or is that something that needs further emphasis over the next 3 years? That's where we're going next time. I hope you feel like we've gotten someplace tonight. The big thing was introduction and review, and you can't do the review, you can't do the planning unless you've done a review. And we didn't do enough of that, I don't think, with the performance indicators. So I do want you to, that would be a third assignment that I would add, is take time to look at the core initiatives and the performance indicators for next week as well. Tom, would you put that down as well? And then I'll give you a quiz on it when you come back.
Yep, I'm typing it in there right now. Core initiatives and performance indicators.
Yes. Now you have a little more specificity with which to look at it. You know why we're going to be doing that. How much have we accomplished? How much are we accomplishing? What should we be emphasizing more in what's listed? Okay. Any final questions before I let you go tonight?
That was terrific. Really great. Thank you. So nice to get our hands on all of this, because this really is our school, what we really need to aspire to and hold up. So it's wonderful, Don. Yes.
Thank you. You and John and I, we should look at a time in the early part of next week for maybe just touching base to kind of go over what we've done and what we're going to be doing again too. That if that works, you talk about it with John, and I should be available too. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. We'll have maybe John, if you could throw out a few times around my, when you're not busy, maybe Wednesday prep next week. I know we're all busy. What's a prep? I don't even know what that is anymore. So yeah, we'll do that. Definitely do that. We'll handle that.
Well, thank you all very much for your time and attention tonight. I
Hi, Cody.
Really do appreciate it, and looking forward to next time.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep,
Okay.
just a reminder, the parking lot will remain active. So if at any point in the next month, something kind of pops into your mind, you can certainly log in there and add the comments. And I've noticed that some of you are commenting on the posts that people make. So feel free to do that if you want to ask a clarifying question, or expand on what that person, or even possibly answer their question. We can then take that information out and add it somewhere else to to clear the parking lot for the school. So
That's
that'll
perfect.
be there.
That's what the parking lot's all about. You guys are great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you.
Okie doke.
Bye.
We'll talk to you again.
All right. See y'all later. Have a nice night.
You do.
Okay.
Ms. Albers, do you need me to do anything or can you control and close the meeting?
Actually, can you just hit end live stream?
Do I just hit end? Oh, up on top.
I think so, just in case.